Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. The big stories tonight. Brace for impact. Ulysses has intensified into a typhoon as it makes landfall tonight in Quezon. Pag-asa is warning of destructive winds and intense and at times torrential rainfall. Signal number 3 has been raised over several areas, including Raleigh-hit provinces. The Weather Bureau alerts those in coastal regions of storm surges as high as 3 meters. A Manila trial court judge has been shot dead in her very own courtroom. The suspect, her chief of court clerk. The Senate starts its plenary deliberations on the 2021 budget, and Senator Pantilo Lacson kicks things off by bearing skeleton and road to nowhere infrastructure projects. And the country hits a grim landmark as COVID-19 cases top 400,000. The Philippines ranks 25th globally. Let's start with Typhoon Ulysses, battering a large swath of southern Luzon. This comes just a little over a week since the damage left by Super Typhoon Raleigh. Data from Pag-asa shows Typhoon Ulysses off the coast of Daet, Camarines Norte, bringing destructive winds and torrential rainfall in the Quezon, Aurora area. Ulysses is packing winds of up to 140 kilometers per hour. It's moving west at 20 kilometers per hour. It's expected to make landfall in the mainland of Quezon province between this evening and tomorrow early morning. The typhoon is then expected to cross central Luzon and then emerge over the western seaboard of Zambales. Ulysses is seen to exit the Philippine area of responsibility by Friday. Throughout the passage of Typhoon Ulysses, strong winds could be experienced in central and southern Luzon. Heavy rainfall could also be expected in Camarines Norte, Camarines Sur, Calabarzon, and Metro Manila. Pag-asa has also raised storm surge warnings in several areas with heights potentially of up to 3 meters in the coastal areas of Aurora, Quezon, and some Bicol region provinces. Storm surges with heights of up to 2 meters, meanwhile, could be experienced in coastal areas of La Union, Pangasinan, and Isabela, and Zambales, among others. Ulysses is already, in fact, proving to be more destructive than Typhoon Raleigh, at least for the residents of Camarines Norte. To give us updates on the ground, we have with us reporting live from Vinson, Marian Enriquez. Marian.
Robbie, despite all the warnings and alerts from state agencies, Camarines Norte officials say nothing could have prepared them from the heaviness of the rainfall and winds brought by Typhoon Ulysses. As you can very well see, because of the severe weather, our team is currently stuck in our car, stranded in the middle of a rice field here in Vincentown.
Strong winds started battering the province of Camarines Norte around 11:30 in the morning. But by 1 in the afternoon, the weather conditions started to worsen. Violent winds and catastrophic rains tormented the whole province. In this area in Laboa Vincent's Road, rice fields are already flooded. Some trees have been uprooted and heavy rains toppled electric posts. PDRRMO officials say that even after the country was slammed by typhoons Pepito, Quinta, and Raleigh, Ulysses is the strongest typhoon to have hit them in a long time. During Super Typhoon Raleigh, they only felt strong winds, but the might of Typhoon Ulysses is different.
Ngayon lang po ito nagsabay na malakas yung ulan at malakas yung hangin. And in fact, dito sa Kapitolyo, itong mga puno po namin dito na hindi naman binabagsak ng mga namin ngayon, nagbabagsakan ho.
Even when Typhoon Ulysses' track shifted upward to Quezon Province, authorities still braced for the worst as preemptive and forced evacuation were implemented. As of the moment, around 9,000 individuals have been evacuated. One of them is Aida Andaya and her family, who live in Barangay Cagbalogo in Vinsons.
Yan pong ulan na yan, sigurado pong lulus-lus ang tubig. Mababaha po. Kaya po naglikas na kami.
Our team also chanced upon a family in Talisay. Quinta damaged their house, while Rolly ripped off their roofs. This time, they opted to evacuate.
Inaayos lang po namin yung gamit namin at lahat po ay nasira na, TV, lahat. Sa darating na naman bagyo, paano na naman po, gigibay na naman uli. Kakatakot na po, nakaka-nervyos na.
Robbie, the Camarines Norte PDRRMO has reported one casualty so far from the town of Daet, while 3 fishermen are missing from Vincent. Now, the Coast Guard said that they have notified all their substations and that they will be conducting a search and rescue operation once the weather permits. The PDRRMO also said that all households across the Camarines Norte province are still experiencing power outage. Robbie?
Maraming salamat, Marian Enriquez, along with the News 5 crew reporting live from Camarines Norte. All of you stay safe. Typhoon Ulysses is also pummeling other parts of Luzon. The continuous rains has led to waist-deep floods in San Jose, Camarines Sur. Residents who are still reeling from the wrath of Rolly are appealing to netizens for help. But because of the typhoon, NDRRMC spokesman Mark Timbal tells Radio 5 that relief efforts in Rolly-hit areas have been temporarily stopped. He says the agency will continue delivering warning text messages, although communication remains a challenge in some areas, including over Bicol.
Pinapaalala po natin sa mga kasamahan natin sa local government, sa kapulisan, at sa iba pang armed forces of the Philippines, Philippine Coast Guard, Bureau of Fire Protection, barangay, na pag kung naabot po kayo nito, ng broadcast na ito, pasabihan po natin yung mga kababayan natin, magbahay-bahay po tayo, magbandilyo, para po malaman po nila yung panganib.
In Calamba, Laguna, local officials have set up tents and prepared relief goods for the evacuees. Residents in flood and landslide-prone areas have been advised to flee their homes as early as Wednesday afternoon. The province of Pampanga, which is also currently under signal number 3, is not taking any chances. Even before the onslaught of Ulysses, more than 60 families in Lubao, Pampanga have taken refuge in evacuation centers. Authorities have also conducted preemptive evacuation in high-risk areas facing the threat of storm surges. Meanwhile, Quezon Province is taking no chances. It has started to experience the strength of Typhoon Ulysses even before its expected landfall this evening. To learn more about the situation, we have our correspondent, Romel Lopez, reporting on the ground. Romel, kamusta dyan?
Yes, rough effects of Typhoon Ulysses can now be felt here in Infanta, Quezon, with heavy rain and gusty winds. That is why residents from disaster-prone areas were advised to evacuate early. Infanta, Quezon has experienced light to moderate rains whole day. According to Fagasa's forecast, Typhoon Ulysses will make landfall in the province later this evening. Here, we can see the waves of usually tranquil sea acting up. The State Weather Bureau had earlier warned of the high risk of a storm surge over the coastal areas. That's why fisher folks have already placed their bangkas on higher grounds. The Kalipusan family of Barangay Dinahican wasted no time packing up.
Sabi ay malakas po ngayon si Bagyo. Wala kaming magawa, kasi lilikas po kami.
Kaya ba hindi pa nananawa sa bagyo? Lagi na lang may bagyo.
Noong Bagyo, Rolly, lumikas kami. Doon kami sa simbahan sa Seventh-day Adventist po. Ngayon, lilikas na naman uli.
Hindi pa nakakapagod din.
Pagod talaga pero walang magawa, tiis lang.
Jessa, who is 2 months pregnant, had no choice but to evacuate with her 2 children.
Lilikas po kami at wala po kasi mapagtaguan eh. Kawawa naman kasi yung mga anak ko, kay kami lang, mabuti kung hindi ako buntis.
Anthony and his sons fortified the roof for fear that it will yet again be dismantled by the upcoming typhoon.
Pag malakas ang hangin, baka mabuklas ay wala pang pangbili ng pamalit. Sira na nga po. Wala pa lang talaga, kapos-kapos.
Dali na nagubang bagyo yan?
Oo, mga dumang bagyo nakaraan.
Data from the Quezon LGU showed that at least half of the 36 Infanta barangays are vulnerable to storm surge and landslide. At least 35,000 residents are expected to be affected by Ulysses.
Calamity is not only a concern of the government, it's also a concern of every family, of every household, of every individual. So kailangan po natin ay sama-sama sa paghanda, sa pag-iingat, at pakikipagtulungan.
Rabi, the LGU is closely monitoring the situation, is already coordinating with other line agencies. They have also started preparing relief goods for those who would be in need. Rabi?
Maraming salamat, Romel Lopez, reporting from Infanta, Quezon. Now we'll go for a quick break. When the big story returns, it was a harrowing scene at the Manila City Hall as trial court judge was gunned down in her own chamber. And the country reaches another troubling milestone in its fight against the pandemic. Cases now breach 400,000. More details later. Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. Optimism from Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine bid spills over to the Philippines. Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez assures that despite the change in leadership in the U.S., the vaccine agreement with the country will be honored. Greg Gregorio has this report.
China na Pfizer of America, meron na sila. So, hindi na nakakatakot talaga ang COVID. But sa pagkangayon, magbili ka mahal.
This was how President Rodrigo Duterte painted the current COVID-19 situation in the country as optimism worldwide grows on a potential vaccine for the virus. His statement came after Pfizer and BioNTech reported that their candidate COVID-19 vaccine showed more than 90% efficacy based on their ongoing Phase 3 clinical trial. But the health department said there's no room for complacency.
Unang-una, di naman po dapat tayo matakot. Kailangan lang tayo ay laging vigilant, kailangan tayo ay laging handa, tayo ay laging cautious and aware. And kailangan sinusunod natin yung minimum public health standards.
A member of the DOH's Technical Advisory Group also noted that the results are still based on preliminary data.
This is very preliminary, very short term, but encouraging nonetheless because of what we're seeing so far.
Health officials hope, though, that candidate vaccine will continue to give promising outcome. US-based pharmaceutical company Pfizer is among the 17 manufacturers that the government is having negotiations with for possible vaccine procurement. Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez Jr. said it was the administration of outgoing U.S. President Donald Trump who gave the assurance of having access to America's vaccine supply. but he is confident that the agreement will be honored by the new Biden administration.
The U.S. has been our ally for a long, long time. And the commitment has been made by Donald Trump, and I believe Joe Biden will is honor bound to really honor the commitment that they had during the Trump administration. I believe that the U.S. being a very advanced country, they are willing to help us, considering that in Southeast Asia we are the most close allies of the United States.
But authorities admit that providing cold storage facilities for the likes of Pfizer's candidate vaccine, which requires a negative 70 degrees temperature, will be a challenge.
And currently here in the country, wala tayong existing na system pa with this kind of storage facilities. Yung pong mga dry ice, hindi po pwede. Kaya nga isa yan sa challenge eh.
Galvez said they are tapping the private sector to help plug the gaps. The government will also hold a logistics and service support summit for this matter. And even with a hefty budget needed to procure at least 50 million doses of vaccines for 25 million Filipinos, President Duterte assures the public that the government has the means to deliver.
Sonny says that he can borrow money of 300 million plus US dollars, $300 million. So malaki yan. Makapamili tayo. But I think it would do us well to also realize that unahin talaga nila yung mga tao nila.
Galvez says that according to the Commission on Audit, providing advance payment for the vaccines would be possible as long as it is approved by the President. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
And these are the other big stories today. COVID-19 infections in the Philippines breached 400,000 today with 1,700 new cases. 311 individuals have recovered. That brings the total number of recoveries to 362,000. The country's COVID-19 death toll is now at 7,710, with 49 new deaths reported. The Philippines is the 25th country in the world with the most number of cases. It is second in Southeast Asia, next to Indonesia's 440,000 cases. A Manila trial court judge was shot dead in her own courtroom. Manila RTC Branch 45 Judge Maria Teresa Abadilla was allegedly gunned down by her chief of court clerk, Amador Rebato. The motive for the killing remains unknown. A police report says Abadilla was talking to Rebato about his seemingly unfavorable performance. A witness said Rebato was supposedly infected with COVID-19, which affected his work. He was planning to file his resignation, reportedly. The police report stated that the clerk was also seen feeling uneasy and shuddering as he was being questioned by Judge Abadilla. Rebato then abruptly shot her in the head. He took his own life immediately afterwards. Abadilla was declared dead at the Manila Medical Center. And former Davao Police Chief Vicente Danao has been named NCRPO Director. Danao succeeds newly minted top cop Devon Sinas. Sinas, who drew flack for his Mañanita celebration during quarantine restrictions, said the incident did not taint his reputation. Time for another quick break, but when we return, a lawmaker exposes unfinished projects which have been repeatedly funded by the national government throughout the years. Good evening, I'm Ravi Alampay. You're still watching The Big Story. The Justice Department is in talks with the Ombudsman on the possible appointment of a resident ombudsman in every government agency as part of its anti-corruption efforts. Marlene Alcaide tells us more.
For the nth time, President Duterte has reiterated his fight against corruption. He offers a reward money of as much as 100,000 pesos to those who will expose corrupt officials and agencies.
Pagmamalaking mga contract, huwag mo lang sabihin pangalan mo, ibulong mo lang na niluluto yan. I'll give you 100,000 and I will keep your identity secret until I reach my grave.
The president also issues a stern warning against erring officials who have been suspended by the ombudsman.
Simple neglect of duty or whatever, it falls as a ground for dismissal, papalisin ko na kayo.
For Justice Secretary Minardo Guevara, the president is going all out in his fight against corruption.
Just to really put some spice to this all-out campaign against corruption. Kumbaga pampasarap lang yan. He's not impatient. Talagang gusto niya lang na maging all-out.
But he clarifies that only disclosures that will result in the prosecution of corruption cases will receive the reward. Guevara, who leads the mega task force that probes irregularities across all government agencies, says they have already received a number of complaints.
The greater number would pertain to certain projects of the Department of Public Works and Highways. So more particularly dun sa regional offices and also mga local government units na mayroong projects na ini-implement in coordination with the DPWH. The other complaints, the usual suspects, so to speak, the BIR, Customs, PhilHealth, continuing ang investigation namin dyan. But we're also receiving some complaints pertaining, for example, to the Department of Transportation. So, yan, ganyan. Meron kami natatanggap na ganyan, Department of Health. But, konti pa lang naman to.
As for controversies hounding PhilHealth, Guevara says they are not rushing the investigation. He adds that he is now in talks with Ombudsman Samuel Martires if the concept of a so-called resident ombudsman can be revived. The position may be appointed by the ombudsman for a department, bureau office, commission, or any unit of national and local governments. For News 5, Marlene Alcaide, we are One News.
A lawmaker is questioning skeleton infrastructure projects that had already been funded over the previous years but are still asking for a portion of the 2021 budget. He said funds should instead be reallocated to improving broadband infrastructure. Meanos Baños with this report.
On the first day of floor deliberations on the 4.5 trillion 2021 budget bill, Senator Panfilo Lacson accosted some rehashed infrastructure projects which are still up for financing in next year's budget. These items have been funded in the past but remain as skeletal structures. Lacson's team found out that the alleged rehashed projects amounted to 135 billion pesos. The lawmaker even presented photos to prove his claim, like these multi-purpose buildings in Bacnotan, La Union. He said the structure had a 5.6 million peso funding back in 2017. It also received another 5 million peso financing in 2019, and now it's still part of the 2021 budget.
Does this structure, a 400 square meter structure, look like it's worth 15.6 million to you? And shall we allow to allocate another 5 million pesos for this project in 2021? This is a 400 square meter structure. Kung kukwentahin natin at 25,000, dapat tapos na ito sa 10 million.
Another multipurpose building, this time in San Carlos, Pangasinan, was funded for 2 million pesos in 2019. It has another 3 million peso allocation for 2021. A project in Barangay Linomot, Isabela also had a 20 million peso budget from 2017 to 2018. Lacson's camp confirmed that it's still part of next year's general appropriation. But when his team did an ocular, the building was nowhere to be found. While there are arguments that MPBs are used as evacuation centers and quarantine facilities, Lacson said these structures have a separate set of allocations.
Branded it road to nowhere kasi wala talaga pupuntahan, Mr. President.
The senator also presented photos of some roads to be repaired in Cagayan de Oro that were under the 2020 and the proposed 2021 national budget. But upon verification, Lacson said not much has been done to improve the structures. Lacson proposed that 68 billion peso appropriation for the rehashed projects be reallocated for the National Broadband Project. He said it's more timely as the country needs to have an improved internet service. Senate President Tito Soto is now just waiting for deliberations on the Public Works Department's budget to better understand the matter.
Ay, hindi siyempre, hindi tayo natutuwa doon sa nangyayari na yun. As a matter of fact, iintayin natin na dapat yan, isitahin ng COA yan, sitahin ng Executive Department yan. At saka, perhaps we will be able to be clarified or will have a better picture or a better perspective pagdating ng budget ng Department of Public Works. Kasi nandun sa ilalim ng DPAWH lahat yun.
Soto said that should there be wrongful allocations, then he is inclined to concur that the budget should be realigned. Reporting for News 5, Mean Los Baños, we are One News.
Signal Entertainment wins big at this year's Gawa Durian. Crime thriller Babae at Baril bagged top honors including Best Picture, Best Cinematography, Best Editing, and Best Production Design. Its star, Janine Gutierrez, was named Best Actress, while Ray Red, in her directorial debut, won Best Director. Meanwhile, HIV drama Kalel 15 took home Best Screenplay. Its lead, Elijah Canlas, was honored as Best Actor. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. Now, for more in-depth analysis, you can visit our webpage, onenews.ph. I'm Robbie Alampay, and we are One News. Good evening.